Hey, welcome back to the Unstuck movement, true testimonies of breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today, we have Craig Meriwether with us on the podcast. Craig, I'm super excited to talk to you. We're talking about the truth about hypnosis, and I'm so excited to dive into this topic, man. You're an expert in this field, and right off the bat, I just want to understand, how does hypnotherapy actually work in our brains?
All right. Well, thank you first off, Rob, for inviting me onto the show. I've been looking forward to this for some months now, so it's crazy it's actually here. But this is a huge topic: mind, consciousness, healing. But really, what we're looking at is the placebo effect. In fact, Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo, and so we know mind will heal the body. That's why when a pharmaceutical company is doing a new drug, let's say high blood pressure medication, half the group in the research study has to get a placebo, the sugar pill, because they know mind will heal the body when influenced. And they don't know what's going to influence people. Is it the brochure people are reading when they're thinking about joining the study? Is it the waiver they have to sign? Is it the setup when they come in and the people in the white lab coats are talking about the medication and what it's going to do? All this is influencing a person's ability to heal themselves. So they have to account for that. And so half the group is going to get a sugar pill, and they're going to see how many people are influenced by what we say, the paperwork we hand out, the advertising, the promotion of this study. And let's say 30% get better on the sugar pill. 30% of the people healed themselves. There's no medicinal value in that sugar pill. They healed themselves through mind. Now, let's say 40% of the people taking the real medication heal themselves. Well, they now have to subtract 30% because maybe they were also influenced to heal themselves and the medication actually had nothing to do with it. So really only 10% of the people got better with the medication. That's good enough, and they'll put it on the market at $80 a pill. But really, more people actually, at least in this study, more people got better through mind than the actual medication. But that's not a big money maker in terms of billions and billions of dollars that the pharmaceutical companies are looking for. And so it's better to, just throw pills at people than teach them how to heal themselves. So really what hypnotherapy is doing is accessing your own ability to heal, and not just physically, but we're emotional healing, mindset healing. If you have limiting beliefs about yourself, lack of confidence, or you have a lot of anxiety or a lot of anger, these are all instructions, and maybe we can get to physical pain in a little bit. But in terms of, like, if people are struggling with trauma, people are struggling with fears, people are struggling with anger, chronic anger, overwhelm and worry, kind of these negative emotions we associate with stress and overwhelm. These are oftentimes implanted early on in our lives. We learn how to cope with maybe a home that isn't safe, or just through being beaten down by life, or maybe we've had some extraordinary trauma. And maybe it happened when we were children, or maybe it happened when we were adults. If we get maybe into an abusive relationship or just a work situation that isn't great. And as a form of protection, we kind of armor ourselves. Now, the subconscious mind is not against you. It may seem like that sometimes, but the subconscious mind is not against you. Its main job actually is to keep you safe and protected and for survival. So yes, it's running your immune system and beating your heart and running your respiratory system, your digestive system, all that. It's holding on to the habits that we have, like tying our shoes and riding a bicycle and walking down the street. All these little habits that we have. But its main job is to keep you safe and protected. the big problem is the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And a good example of this is when somebody's having a nightmare in the middle of the night. And it doesn't matter how crazy the nightmare is. It could be like a cheeseburger chasing you down the street, throwing a coconut at you. It's dumb. It's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But the mind can't tell. It just thinks you're under threat. And so it has this shoot first, ask questions later protocol in terms of protecting you, and it'll turn on the stress response. And that's a lot of effort to turn on the stress response, not only in your waking world, but during sleep too. The brain has to start creating the hormones of adrenaline and cortisol. You've probably heard, Rob, and probably your listeners have heard the crazy stories of grandmothers lifting cars off of babies and things like that. That's adrenaline doing that. It's now being produced in your brain and merging in with your bloodstream, being pumped to all the places in your body. 300% more blood moving to the big muscles of your arms to escape. 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs. Arms to fight, but legs to escape. That's got to come from somewhere. So it's shutting down the power in your immune system, shutting down the power in your digestive system, all because you're being chased by a cheeseburger throwing coconuts at you. So imagine what's happening in your waking world. And when we're in danger, we get the warning systems. Now, when somebody's in a building, they pull the fire alarm, the sirens go off, the strobe lights go off, warning everybody that there's danger and you need to get to safety. We also have a warning system. And it's the feeling states of anxiety, the feeling state of fear, feeling state of overwhelm and worry. These are warning us that there's danger in our external environment. The problem is the mind can't tell the difference whether it's real or imagined danger. And so even if something may have happened to us a long time ago that was traumatic or terrifying or created a lot of fear or anger, or maybe it happened a couple of months ago, it may not be happening right then and there, but something in our external environment triggered that. And so now our subconscious mind thinks we're in danger, and it's going to warn us by this feeling of maybe anxiety or worry, overwhelm, fear, start armoring ourselves with that adrenaline, that cortisol. And so in terms of the subconscious mind, the way hypnotherapy specifically helps is that by quieting down the mind, the body, even just through simple relaxation, you can access the subconscious mind and start rewriting those instructions on how to keep you safe, letting go of that anxiety and that stress. And while it might not be easy in terms of if somebody's gone through some traumatic stuff, it's actually kind of simple, if that makes sense. This doesn't take a long time because you're the one who's healing yourself. I'm not going to fix anybody. Hypnotherapy in of itself doesn't fix anybody. You're going to fix yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the problem is. And more importantly, you know what the answer is. So in terms of therapeutic hypnosis, by just, again, relaxing the mind and body, if anybody's ever done any sort of meditation or yoga class, at the end of yoga class, there's savasana and everybody relaxes and lies down their back. Or if you ever just started daydreaming, remember back in high school, maybe math class, you just started staring out the window, thinking about how much fun the weekend's going to be, or meeting at work and it's, doesn't pertain to you, or it's just boring and you just start staring out the window. That's basically the state of hypnosis. This isn't any sort of voodoo, zombified kind of trance state where we're controlling you.
Yeah, where you're
giving
like
you
a chicken
back
or
control.
something.
Yeah. So a lot of people, unfortunately, have the misconception that this is taking control away from you when you do hypnosis. And unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions around it because this is a really powerful tool. It's you healing you, tapping into that placebo effect. But because of movies and TV shows and Las Vegas shows, people get the impression that you're being controlled by somebody else. And that's not true. This isn't mind control. That's fictionalized stuff. And then, we can get a whole thing about that MK Ultra stuff that was happening in the 50s and 60s, probably still happening today. But that's a whole different thing. They were also using LSD and sleep deprivation, all sorts of stuff. You can't.
So they were using hypnosis.
That was a little tiny part of it, but a lot of it was the sleep deprivation, the getting LSD, a lot of the cycles. There was certainly an aspect of it, but it wasn't like that was the whole thing, hypnotizing people. You can't hypnotize somebody to go assassinate the prime minister. It just doesn't work that way. And so it's actually giving you back control. I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And that's why smoking cessation is not 100% guarantee. If you don't want to quit smoking, you're not going to quit smoking.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good I am at my job. I can't bend your will to my needs and wants. Otherwise, I could go into every bar, every Las Vegas casino and get everybody to quit smoking, whether they wanted to or not. And I could, everybody's health is going to be greater. I could go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens and shut down every prison in the country. I could hypnotize my way into the UN and hypnotize all the leaders of the United Nations into creating world peace and ending war. I could hypnotize Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check. But the reason why I don't have $1 billion check from Elon Musk is because he doesn't want to write me one. And so I can't make anybody, no hypnotherapist can make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And so if a person comes to a session to stop smoking, but it was set up maybe by their wife, who's tired of the expense and the smell and the health implications, and says, you're stopping smoking, you're doing it now, and I've set up an appointment for you as a hypnotherapist who's an expert at smoking cessation. And the guy shows up and is like, oh, I'm just gonna do these sessions, and then tell her it didn't work and smoke in the garage, which actually happened to a colleague of mine. The guy paid $800 to do smoking cessation, and all it was a negotiating ploy so he could smoke in the garage. He didn't want to quit, and so he didn't. And so,
can I pause real quick?
Oh, sure.
My dad did the same thing. My dad, who smoked a pipe for years. He was going to his doctor, and she said, I want you to stop smoking this pipe.
Yeah.
And he doesn't lie, and he wants to tell the truth. So he said, okay, I'll stop. And so he kept going back to the doctor, and she said, so you quit that pipe after 30 years? He's like, yeah, I don't smoke it anymore. Yeah, I don't smoke the pipe anymore. He's telling me this story. He pulls out a cigar. And he's like, I'm like, Dad,
he's not smoking the pipe anymore.
He's like, hey, I'm not lying to her. I'm like, good Lord, man. That's not the point. But anyways, this reminded me of that's if you're only going to change if you want to.
Yeah. And hypnotherapy is a great modality to help you do that, because you can look at the subconscious mind as computer programming. It's just following the instructions and the suggestions installed. And those instructions on how to keep you safe may have been installed by a child, when you were 8 years old, 5 years old. And maybe that was the best thing you could have done. If somebody's like, hides themselves and doesn't speak up for themselves and is quiet all the time, and that may have been the best thing the child could have done, is keep themselves hidden and it keeps themselves quiet and out of the way. And so they're safe. But that's not going to work when you're an adult. But the instructions haven't changed. So the subconscious mind is just following what it's told to do. This is how you keep safe. This is how you are protected. And until those instructions change, nothing's going to change. And you're allowed to change them. You can change them whenever you want. I work with people everywhere from, kids, 10-year-olds to people in their 80s. And, these, sometimes it's extraordinary to watch and to see these people in their 70s and 80s releasing the stuff they've held on to for 60 years. Yeah. It's a shame, though, that they had to hold on to it for 60 years. Because unfortunately, I think because of a lot of the misconceptions and myths about hypnotherapy and what people see on the movies and TV shows and Las Vegas shows, is that they're hesitant and afraid to do it. And so it's really the last resort.
Well, and like you said, you have medical professionals who they can see the power of placebo. They know there's something going on there, but they almost write it off like it's not even in existence. It's interesting, isn't it? Because like you say, the placebo effect works 30% in 30% of the patients, and they know that as a statistical fact, and they don't understand why, but still they won't lean on that. Like you said, I mean, you could go to the pharmaceutical companies, or just the way maybe medical professionals are trained, the way they think is like, we have to, it's kind of I've always thought of it like if you're a mechanic, then you've got to work on the car to fix it. The car isn't going to fix itself. So I feel
Right.
like doctors and medical professionals look at people, human bodies like cars that they have to manually fix because
Mhm.
it's not going to fix itself. But it's the
Oh
opposite.
yeah,
It
and
can fix
I
itself.
tell you what, if I wake up tomorrow morning with a pain in my abdomen, I'm not going to a hypnotherapist. I'm going to the emergency room because maybe I have appendicitis and I
Right.
need a surgeon right away. If I'm in a car accident, don't take me to the hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
Afterwards, because it's been shown, and these are studies done by Harvard and Yale and Stanford and Oxford, and you know published in the Journal of American Medical Association journals and things like this.
Mhm.
And so this is great research that has been going on for 50 years, showing the efficacy of using therapeutic hypnosis along with all the other. This isn't just a standalone thing that you can only use it after surgery, use it with your broken leg that's in a cast,
Mm.
because what Harvard showed is that using hypnotherapy will accelerate healing,
Hmm.
and that people had similar broken legs, and half the group got hypnotherapy, the other group didn't, and the group with hypnotherapy got their casts off in 5 weeks, and the regular group who didn't use hypnotherapy got their casts off in 8 weeks
Wow.
because of the healing acceleration you can do. And so again, it's not really the hypnotherapy doing it, it's just that it's tapping into your own ability to create healing. Okay, yeah, you're not going to heal your leg with hypnotherapy in a day or two, but you can certainly accelerate that healing,
Hmm.
you know. And
Oh,
so,
that's
and
really interesting.
yeah, and yeah, it's extremely interesting. So you can use it not just, if somebody's struggling with cancer, keep going to your oncologist and doing what you all decide is the best course of action, but add in some hypnotherapy with that too.
Yeah.
That can help with the nausea or the side effects, or boosting the immune system, all sorts of things while treatment is happening.
Yeah. So hold on, we got to pause for a second though, because I didn't even introduce you yet. We got into
Oh.
this and started going. So, first of all, guys, this is the Unstuck movement. So this platform was created to help you break the chains that have been holding you back in your life, personally and professionally. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy and also by the Pro Podcaster Academy. So if you want to launch your own platform, check out robzwentz.com. Join the waitlist for the Pro Podcaster Academy. Craig Meriwether with us today is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and NLP specialist, helping people eliminate negative emotions, trauma, and limiting beliefs to reach their full potential. He's the founder of Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy and the creator of ACE Any Test, a comprehensive course for overcoming test anxiety. So basically it boils down to like you have to for these things to work, and I mean this is true for anybody to change, like you have to want to change
Mhm.
or believe that you can. Like
Yeah.
wanting and believing are two different things. You have to want to, and then you actually have to believe it's possible to change in order for the thing to actually create change. So
Mhm.
how do you get somebody, I guess the question is like, if somebody doesn't believe that they can change, how do you get them to a place where they can believe that?
Wow, that's a
Because wanting is one thing. Some people don't want to change, and that's one
yeah.
thing. But if they want to, but they don't believe they can, that's a pretty big gap.
Yeah, that's a really good question. If they don't want to or don't think they can, they're not picking up the phone,
Hmm.
or they're not making the appointment.
Or they might
Uh,
believe that you can help them, but they're not thinking they can help themselves. I mean, that's why
yeah,
they're reaching out to you,
if,
right? They
or
want
if
to
they're actually
change.
reaching out, then yeah, there's you can start slowly. And I don't ever throw anybody into the deep end right away of the pool. I want to ease into the pool, and that's really helpful if you can start seeing those little changes, and they'll see them in that first session.
Hmm.
We do enough powerful work. It may not be on a hyper focused, oh, when I was 5 years old, this happened. This trauma happened to me. It may be, let's just release and let go a lot of that feeling state, a lot of that armor you've been carrying for a long time. And when they realize they can do that, then that stirs, okay, well, if I can do that, then what else can I do? You know, that it really starts getting the subconscious mind thinking. And you ask questions like that. You may even ask that specific question at the end of the session. Well, how are you feeling? Well, you look so much better. How amazing do you feel? It's like, I feel really good. It's like, well, if you could do this, what else can you do? And even it may be somewhat of a rhetorical question, you know, it starts getting the subconscious mind. Yeah, what else could I do? Generally, before a session, we'll have a conversation over the phone, just like a consultation call. And a lot of those questions will get answered. And I'll specifically say, I'm not here to heal you. You're going to heal yourself. This is powerful stuff. And we'll talk about the placebo effect. We'll talk about some other things. And I'll let them know they have the power to do this. They're the ones who did it in the first place. And it's not to blame the victim or say it was their fault or that it was fair. But even as a child and unconsciously, they were the ones who installed those instructions on how to keep themselves safe, to hide or to create fear or anxiety or anger. That was installed by them. Again, not to say it was their fault or it should have happened or it was fair, but it becomes very empowering because if they did that, then they can change it. They don't have to look outside of themselves for somebody else to fix them. Right. And so, and then there's also the aspect of, you know, I don't specifically trick people into doing it, but there's that placebo effect. The placebo done in research is literally tricking people into healing themselves. And they may not even know they have the ability to do it. There was one, you were talking about 30%. That was just an example. It could be higher than that. There's going back to Dr. Irving Kirsch. He did some books in the early 2000s on Prozac and those SSRI drugs for depression, things like that. And there's no law that says you have to publish your research. You can hide it, you can bury it, you can just put it on a shelf. There's no law that says you have to publish any research you're doing. However, if it's government funded, if you got a grant to help with that research, it is government property, and you have to send it to, you know, National Institutes of Health or whoever's funding the research. And so Dr. Irving Kirsch did a Freedom of Information Act back in the early 2000s when he's doing all this research to look at all that unpublished research. Because, of course, the pharmaceutical company is only going to publish the research that makes them look good and promotes their drug. And he found one unpublished study on Prozac where the control group, the ones getting a placebo, 90% healed themselves of their chronic depression. And this isn't, Monday morning blues because your football team lost or, you know, your favorite TV show ended. This is chronic depression over years. 90% healed themselves. And so this is the power people have. And if you start talking to people about that and continually explaining that I'm not doing it,
right?
I will help and I will guide and I'll facilitate and I'll lifeguard for you. But understand that you're the one who's doing this. And when they realize they have the power, it the floodgates open and it starts happening. And
I love that.
You do those first sessions where you were like, okay, why do we want to talk about the actual specific issue? We'll have an intake form and maybe we'll talk about it on the phone, but this isn't talk therapy. I wanted you to tell me where that anxiety or that anger is in your body. Point to it. I want it in my heart, in my head, in the back of my neck, my low back, wherever, in my gut. And we're going to work on with that, just the feeling state. And when they realize they can get rid of that feeling state and then practice with that over the week with some recordings, that second session and a third session, we're pretty much done. I mean, it can be that fast. And that was what I was saying earlier. It may not be easy because we're dealing with trauma that happened maybe when you were a child, but it can be that simple. That makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. I mean, that's the best things in life. The things that really work are always simple. They're not easy.
Yeah.
It might be really hard to do, but it's not complicated.
Yeah.
So, I'll go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think people get stuck on the videos they see, or if they've seen a Las Vegas show, comedy clubs, they see people up on stage and they're singing like Elvis Presley and dancing like Michael Jackson and barking like dogs and quacking like ducks. And they say, oh, I don't want to go to a hypnotherapist because I don't want to do that. That's embarrassing. I understand that everybody that gets up on that stage volunteered to be up there. They're extroverts, they're exhibitionists. They want a funny video to put on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. They want to do that. They raised their hand, jumped up and down to get the hypnotist's attention so they could actually be up on stage and do that. And they have a good time. So it's all really all about your intention. I think that's what comes back to you're talking about earlier. How do you get somebody to do it, or the whole smoking cessation thing? It's your intention. Mm-hmm. Your father's intention wasn't to quit smoking. He didn't lie. He did quit smoking a pipe, but his intention wasn't to quit smoking, so he didn't. Those people who get up on stage, their intention is to have fun and act silly, because to them, that's a good time. And look at them after the show. They have a big smile on their face,
mm-hmm.
And so, and you see those videos on YouTube sometimes of somebody seemingly randomly walking up to somebody on the street and yelling sleep at them, and they keel over. And then it's like a big, I don't know what they're supposed to do, but please understand that was set up beforehand. They rehearsed that, and they're trying to get views. They're trying to go viral. I dare anybody to walk up to somebody on the street and yell sleep at them and see what happens. More than likely, you're probably going to get punched in the face, and that person's then going to run away because they're freaked out by you.
Yeah.
You just can't
going to be the
walk up to somebody and yell at them sleep, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Let's take a real quick, though. We got to pause, shout out the sponsors of the podcast. When we come back, though, I want to know why this was the path for you. What was it about you, Craig, that led you to hypnotherapy, and how did it have an impact on your life? We'll talk about that in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Craig, I'm curious, what was this path like for you? Why is this what you ended up doing?
So it really goes back to my teenage years when I really started struggling with my own depression and anxiety, stuff going on. And when I was growing up, and it really kind of started really becoming noticeable when I was about 15 or 16, the depression, the anxiety. And, this is the 1980s. So of course there's no internet, or at least the internet that we could access. So it was really just whatever book you could find, or maybe going to a talk therapist to deal with that kind of stuff. 16, 17, 18-year-old guy's not going to probably go to talk therapy or read the books, do that kind of it. Because it gets to a point where you just think, okay, though, this is who I am.
Right.
This is the way everybody feels, I guess. I don't know. Why would you know any different? How do you explain color to a blind person?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. How do you explain joy or feeling happy all the time? I just assume this is what everybody feels, but I just always had the impression that things could be different, or it could change. And so I, tried the Tony Robbins books, or, things like this during the 90s. And I don't know, I couldn't find anything that really worked for me. Specifically tried, meditation or whatever. Tried all sorts of different things, but nothing ever really stuck or ever really clicked. Mm-hmm. And it was really the birth of my son in the year 2001 that really kind of put things in high gear, because, sometimes you'll do the work for somebody else if you don't feel you're able to do it for yourself. or maybe
Yeah.
you're tired of doing it for yourself because it's not working. But the birth of my son, my mom struggled with depression. I struggle with depression and anxiety. So there's a really good chance that my son's going to struggle with it too, whether it's nature or nurture, or it's a genetic thing, or it's just what's mirrored in the home. And so I didn't want that to happen. Or if it did come up, then I wanted some tools in order to help him. And so I started researching. At that point, the internet was coming out, had been out for some years. And so you could do the research, and it was really easy. There had been a lot of discussion about depression because of the SSRI drugs that came out in the mid to late 90s, Prozac and things like that. And so there's a lot of conversation about it. So there's a lot of information to go over now, more books to research. And so I started finding these techniques and tools specifically geared towards dealing with depression and anxiety. And I was reading the books, the blog post articles, and one thing was always mentioned. They always have the bullet points at the end where you say, oh, here's some things you can do to help yourself. And 5 bullet points, 5 things to do to change your life. 4 would always be different, but they'd always mention hypnotherapy. It came up over and over again. These people that I was reading that inspire me keep talking about hypnotherapy and explaining why it worked. And I said, okay, well, I'll try it. And I did it for myself. And since I'd kind of been on this path of personal growth and self-growth and personal development, it was just a really extraordinary tool to realize I had the power to change the instructions in my own subconscious mind. Now, that isn't to say I don't have days where, I got to work at it. There's a certain relentlessness to just being human.
Yeah.
And just like you wouldn't expect, to go to a personal trainer once and work out at the gym twice and you're in shape for 50 years, look like a Marvel superhero. You got to work out all the time, at least 3 or 4 times a week, they say, if not every day, doing something every day, walking or something. And so what about your emotional health and your mental health? And so to me, hypnotherapy really helped working with somebody one-on-one, help with that deeper stuff. But I still do techniques in my life. I can't say I do them every day, but I do them several times a week, just the kind of self-hypnosis techniques, visualization exercises, or whatever the technique may be, the tool may be. Because again, there's like a relentlessness to it, especially if maybe you're prone to struggling with depression and anxiety. There's work to be done, just as you're prone to, if you don't work out, your muscles are going to atrophy, and you just got to keep working at it. And so for me, hypnotherapy just really helped. And it got to the point, because I was so interested in personal development and growth, I was able to train in it some years later.
It's interesting. The law of inertia, right? I mean, nothing moves until you start to make it move. Nothing gets better until you start making it get better. You have to make that choice. And just like your physical body, your mental state is the same. I love that statement you made too. There is a relentlessness to being a human. That's really good. Right? It's so true, because we think some people, you see people who look like they have it all figured out, and they're not experiencing the relentlessness of humanity, right?
Yeah,
it's not the case. They are experiencing it. We all experience that. I think that's a very good way of looking at being a human, is the relentlessness of it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So, talking about, like, say you wake up. This is actually a great transition here. So, how can somebody use hypnotherapy to, say, start their day with confidence? Because there's a relentlessness to life. You wake up tired. You wake up and you're like, I don't feel like doing today again. How do you start a day with confidence and get yourself out of that sludge?
Okay. Yeah, there's two things. Let me show everybody a really quick exercise you can do to help with that. But a big part of this is that whole fake it till you make it thing. And you don't have the confidence, then you need to start pretending you have the confidence. And why we know this works is because the research shows that even if you just pretend, the mind thinks it's actually happening. Mind can't tell the difference.
Right.
And so actually start wiring your brain to be that confident. Or if you're doing martial arts or Olympic athletes, Every Olympic athlete, I guarantee you, is doing some sort of mental rehearsal.
Mm.
And that's because we know, yes, let's say a gym, doing gymnastics, they're on the mat, they're doing the twists and the turns and the jumps and all that stuff. Yeah, they're doing that several hours a day, but they're also going to sit in a recliner and rehearse that routine over and over, because we now know that fires in the same part of the brain and wires it more strongly just by pretending that you're doing it. And so
Can I
if you
throw
don't have
something
the
in there
confidence,
with that too? I think this is, because I love this. This is really important to talk about, because as you're, because right, fake it till you make it. So rehearsing it and practicing it in your mind, but also in your physical life, taking steps and actions towards achieving that goal, right? So if you're
yeah,
just thinking about it but not taking, this is what I've experienced for myself. I can be thinking about it and visualizing it and affirmations and everything like that, but not taking actionable steps towards the goal, then it
mm,
won't change. But if I'm
yeah,
doing that along with taking action, that's where it works.
yes, it's got to be both, because okay, let's say, for example, I think this might be something a lot of people can identify with who are listening. You got to give that report at the big meeting. You got to give the presentation at the conference. You got to give the keynote speech. And this is one of the big things that people get nervous about, being in front of people, giving a presentation, giving a speech. And you can sit, like you were just talking about, wishful thinking and hoping that's going to go well. But that's a part of it. But the other part is practicing that presentation beforehand, practicing that speech in front of people. That's what the Toastmasters thing's all about, and some of those other programs, getting you in front of people to practice that stuff, to be good at it. Ask any, if you hear any professional speaker's story, they'll tell you those first couple of speeches were awful and terrible, and they didn't do well. And now they're considered some of the greatest speakers out there. Find their origin story, and they'll tell you it was terrible for the first year or so, but they kept practicing. But yes, part of that practice, yes, the gymnast still has to get on the mats and do the twists and the turns. The swimmer still has to get in the pool. But a big part of that, you can't exercise your body 12 hours a day, but you could do maybe 3 hours in the pool and then an hour in a recliner thinking about it. That's what the big thing with Michael Phelps, he talks about this, is that his coach had him doing mental rehearsal. And I forget that the story was, I heard two ways, that either he got bored or his coach started telling him to do different stuff, but he did it swimming with his eyes closed. Like if he couldn't see, like his goggles broke or something like that, if he couldn't see, he started mentally rehearsing swimming, the whatever stroke he was doing, how far it was to the end of the pool, to the back of the pool. In case he couldn't see, how would he swim? And he started mentally rehearsing that. And in one of his Olympic trials, in one of the Olympic events, his goggles broke and he couldn't see. But he'd already practiced it. He already knew how to do it.
Wow.
And he still won. And so that's what's helpful. But he was also spending hours and hours and hours in the pool. And so what I think is brilliant what you just said. It's like, yeah, you have to have the physical component to it. You have to practice that speech and the presentation and get your PowerPoint right. But you can also strengthen and enhance and supersize it by the mental rehearsal. So if you don't have the confidence, you can practice. You can pretend you have the confidence. You have confidence that you can tie your shoes. You have confidence that you can boil water to make pasta. I'm guessing you might have confidence to drive a car, or ride a bicycle, or walk down the street. What does that feel like? Knowing that you can go, to your front door, grab your shoes, or wherever you put your shoes, your bedroom, closet, grab your shoes, tie them up without having to think about it. That's confidence. It's a small thing maybe, but it's confidence. Where do you feel that? And now let's associate that with giving the speech or whatever it is you have to do. But in terms of what you're saying about the morning, I want to show everybody a really quick exercise. If you have the ability, it's safe for you to do so, follow it. If you're driving your car or you're watching the kids around the swimming pool, do this later, clock where we are in the interview, and do the replay. But it's a real simple exercise that was developed by Dr. Richard Nongard, who's a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist. I do a lot of trainings with him because I love his stuff. And it's his little technique but it'll literally change the chemistry in your brain and reset your nervous system in about 5 minutes. So I'll just go through it in a couple of minutes just to watch the clock and save and not go too far over. But it's called 3, 2, 1 reset. And the 3 stands for 3 slow, gentle breaths, because when we're stressed, we just kind of upper chest breathe. And this brain of ours takes 20% of the oxygen. So when you're stressed, you're not breathing well and not taking deeper breaths. You're literally depriving your brain of the fuel and the nutrients and the oxygen it needs to work at optimum levels for rational, calm thinking. So deeper breathing into your abdomen flattens out the diaphragm, gets the air into the bottom of your lungs. It's also, of course, cleansing out on the exhale all the toxins and the gases and the carbon dioxide and all that. But we also have this vagus nerve that comes out of the back of the head. And the vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the relaxation response. There's the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response, the fight or flight response, the parasympathetic. And that's where all the systems of your body are getting the right amount of nutrients and oxygen and blood supply to work at the optimum levels they need to be at. The vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system, attached to the eyes, to the ears, to muscles of your jaw, goes past your vocal cords, attaches to your heart, to your lungs, and to your gut. Vagus is Latin for wanderer because it wanders all over your body. Well, it's attached to your lungs. By breathing slowly, gently, rhythmically, smoothly, you stimulate the vagus nerve, therefore activate the parasympathetic. How simple is that? So right there, deep breathing, which is why it's so important in yoga, so important in Qigong and Tai Chi and martial arts and all the idiots out there that when you're stressed out and anxious, just tell you to take a deep breath. There's a lot of truth to that. That'll really help reset your nervous system, the deep breathing. So 3 slow, gentle, deep breaths. And then we're going to do bilateral stimulation, because when you're panicked or you're fearful or anxious, you're lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. To light up this part of the brain, to energize it, you need oxygen, blood supply, nutrients. And so it'll pull it away from these other parts of the brain. So these other parts of the brain go dark. They go quiet. So how do you undo that? Well, if you force your brain to operate in other areas, then it has to pull away the energy to energize these parts of the brain. So one way to do this, bilateral stimulation, which is just, right side of the brain controlling the left side of the body, left side of the brain is controlling the right side of the body. Here's my little squeezy ball. I just move it back and forth. This is bilateral stimulation. I'm now forcing my brain to operate, needing blood supply and oxygen, these other parts. If you've ever seen, like in a meeting or back in school, somebody drumming on their knees, they're just, they're not hyper, they're not ADHD, they're nervous. This is bilateral stimulation. They're self-soothing themselves. They probably just don't know they're doing it. Just know that it makes them feel better. Or, they're kind of, moving their legs back and forth, tap dancing almost, while they're sitting in a chair, walking, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. That's bilateral stimulation. That's why it feels good to walk. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our shoulders and we're going to squeeze our shoulders like this. 3 deep breaths. You're going to take your 2 arms, grab your shoulders. And by squeezing your shoulders, there's your bilateral stimulation. But you also notice, of course, this is a hug. This is nurturing, healing, loving touch. It's now sending signals back to your brain. And your brain's now creating GABA, the hormone GABA, to dissipate the adrenaline, the cortisol. So it can now be filled with oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. So you're literally changing the chemistry in your brain. And you can squeeze back and forth and give yourself a bear hug. You do the havening technique. There's one to look up, a wonderful technique. Lots of videos on YouTube about that. Just rubbing your hands up. Whatever feels good. You want to feel good, because if you're feeling good in your body, that's coming from the brain chemistry chain. And so 3 slow, gentle deep breaths, closing your eyes if it's safe for you to do so, hugging yourself, and then thinking of a person you want to give a hug to. Now, this person can be in your life today. It could be a good friend. It could be a family member, maybe one of your children, or both your children, all your children. It could be a dog. It could be a pet, your cat. If you align yourself with a spirit animal, maybe it's the bear, the wolf, the hawk, the eagle. Maybe it's somebody who's no longer with us, your grandmother, your grandfather. Maybe it's somebody you've never met before. Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, Gandhi, John F. Kennedy. It doesn't matter. Your mind can't tell. Even if they're they're not there with you. But your mind thinks because you're hugging, you have the physical, the kinesthetic physicality of the hug, and you're thinking of that person you care for, and you're linking both of these things. So it's literally changing the chemistry in your brain and supersizing all that oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. As a great way to start your day, because it's going to shift your reticular activating system, which is part of the brain that's, one, always looking for danger. That's why even in the middle of the night, you smell smoke, you wake up, you hear the baby crying at the end of the hallway, you wake up. It's too hot, too cold, you wake up. You got to go to the bathroom, you wake up. That's your reticular activating system. The second part of your reticular activating system is to solve problems and find solutions. And that's that part of the brain when you're thinking about buying a new car, you're thinking about buying a Toyota Prius. Now you see Toyota Priuses everywhere. Right? Well, it's also that part of your brain when your day goes from bad to worse, because you're focusing your reticular activating system on finding more things to go wrong that are horrible and awful, and therefore ignoring all the good stuff, all the things to be grateful about, all the things to be joyful about. They're out there. Just like if you're just focusing on Priuses, so are the Jeeps and the BMWs and the Kias and the Dodge Caravans. You're just not noticing them because all you're hyper focused on are Toyota Priuses. If all you're focused on are problems and feeling bad and anger, then that's what you're going to see. Therefore, ignoring all this stuff. So by creating all this oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, this feelings of joy and happiness and love, you're now refocusing your reticular activating system to find more things to be joyful about. You know, and so your day is going to go better. And it's called 3-2-1 reset, not 3-2-1 do it once and your life is rainbows and unicorns. So do it over and over again. You know, do it multiple times a day. There's no bad side effects to like making yourself feel better.
Yeah, that's really good. I love it. What a simple technique. And I've never heard that one before. That's awesome, Craig. Thank you for sharing that with us. Honestly, we got to wrap this one up, but I would love to have you come back on and go a little deeper into this. That'd be cool. Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of subject we're just kind of scratching the surface of what's possible.
My God, I mean, people take 10 years to get a PhD in neuroscience and psychology and things. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I told you before we started, I went to that hypnotherapist years ago, and he kind of like made a tape that didn't feel very personal to me, and I didn't have much change because I had like these red flags come up. And honestly, I learned more just from that one technique you just showed me there than what I did when I went to see him. So I could have saved myself like $1,200. But thanks, man. That's really, really amazing. And so as we wrap this thing up, right, I want to make sure that people know about you and can check you out. So they can go to your website, which is aziht.com, which is the Arizona
Integrative Hypnotherapy. So it's just a short link.
Thank you.
To Arizona. And another way to do it is just, I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, but I was talking to Rob before the show. I work with people around the world, around the country because of Zoom. Probably 85% of my sessions are over Zoom now, and it works really well. Happy to talk with you over the phone if you want to do a consultation call or through email. And but Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, even if you just go to Google and search Flagstaff Hypnosis, you'll see me show up.
Cool.
That way.
And also aceanytest.com. If they go to aceanytest.com, when they go there, what can they expect?
That is my course, because I started working when I started doing hypnotherapy. A lot of people were coming to me with test anxiety. They were having trouble graduating. They're having trouble passing the bar exam and things like this. So it's not just high school students doing the SAT. I was working with people in master degree programs and again, trying to get the bar exam, and real estate agents, 65-year-olds who are trying to get their real estate license. And there wasn't any sort of comprehensive program out there. And so that's what that's all about. It's a comprehensive video training course on dealing with test anxiety, whether you're 16, taking the SATs, or you're 65 years old doing real estate, or somewhere in between, electrician, plumber, firefighter, lawyer, whatever it is. It's all about, stuff like you just learned. That's one of the exercises I teach in the course, a 5-minute reset exercise. And that's just one of them out of 12 lessons. So
Cool. I love that. aceanytest.com. Also, remember, if you want to be the authority in your space and you want to launch your platform, I'd love to help you start your podcast and get it off the ground. You can join our wait list for the Pro Podcaster Academy at robzwentz.com. Craig, this has been an awesome episode. Going to be happy to have you back again. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
You know, what I like to tell my clients when I'm working with them, what you practice, you get better at. And of course, we know that playing guitar or martial arts or dance or whatever, riding a bicycle. But if you're practicing anxiety or anger, it's the same deal. You're just going to get really good at it. So watch what you're practicing, and you're allowed to change. You're allowed to do it differently.
Yeah, you're allowed to, and you can. Cool, man. Great information. Love this episode. So thank you for being here. Another true testimony of breakthrough. Absolutely, Craig. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.